Today we're going to explore a different way of looking at things that we call problems. When we experience anxiety, sadness, anger, loneliness, fear, frustration, or some other uncomfortable emotion, our first instinct is to make it go away. We might think, "What's wrong with me?" We might think, "Why can't I just let this go?" Or, "How do I get rid of this feeling?" But what if we learn to ask a different question? What if the things we experience as problems are sometimes just providing us with information? What if, instead of immediately trying to get rid of an uncomfortable experience, we became curious about what it's trying to tell us? That's what we'll be exploring today through this metaphor of the weeds meditation. If you're in a place where it's comfortable and safe to do so, allow yourself to settle into a comfortable position. You may be sitting in a chair, or sitting on the grass outside, or lying down. Make sure it's a place that you'll be undisturbed for the duration of this meditation. Don't worry about trying to empty your mind. Telling yourself not to think is thinking. Don't worry about trying to feel calm. Trying is the opposite of calm. You don't need to feel any particular way at all for this meditation. This meditation isn't about feeling better. It's about becoming more aware of what you're experiencing right now in this present moment. First, take a slow breath in, and now gently breathe out. Again, breathe in and breathe out. Breathe naturally and normally, allowing your breathing to find its own natural rhythm. Notice how your body feels as you inhale and exhale. Notice how your chest moves as you breathe. Notice the air coming in and out of your body. As you continue breathing, begin to notice your surroundings. If you're outside, listen to the sounds around you. Maybe you hear the birds. Maybe you hear the wind moving through the trees. Maybe you hear insects or traffic or other people off in the distance. If you're indoors, just notice the sounds that you hear in the room. Now bring your attention to your body. Are you holding any tension anywhere? If so, you don't have to change any of it. Just notice it. Now imagine yourself looking at a garden. It might be a garden you've actually seen, or it might be a garden that you create in your own imagination. Notice what plants are growing there. Some of them might be flowers, some of them might be vegetables, some of them might be trees or shrubs. Somewhere in this garden, you notice a weed. Maybe it's the only one, or maybe there are several. Take a moment to notice what your mind does when you see that weed. Maybe your first thought is, that doesn't belong there. Maybe you immediately want to pull it out. Maybe you want to get rid of it some other way. That's okay. Just notice the reaction without having to respond to it or to act on it. Now imagine that instead of immediately pulling the weed out, you simply become curious about it. Kneel down beside it and look at it carefully. What does it look like? What color is it? How big is it? Now notice the soil that it's growing in. Is the soil dry or is it moist? Is it compacted or loose? Notice the area where the plant is growing. Is it shady there or is there plenty of sunlight? What can you tell about the environment in which the weed is growing? Now notice something important about this weed. It didn't just appear out of nowhere. It's responding to the conditions of the environment. It's part of the ecosystem. It may be competing with other plants. It may simply be responding to water or the sunlight or the condition of the soil. And whether or not we like the weed, its presence tells us something about the environment. Now bring that metaphor back to yourself. Think of something in your life that you've been calling a problem. Maybe it's anxiety, or anger, or sadness, or loneliness, or exhaustion. Maybe it's a relationship that keeps causing you distress. Choose something that feels manageable to think about right now. You don't have to choose your most painful experience. Just choose something you're willing to observe with curiosity. Now imagine that experience as a weed that's growing in your own garden, the garden of your mind. Instead of saying, how do I get rid of this? Try asking, what is this telling me? Think about this for a moment. What might this weed of experience be responding to in your life? Maybe it's a weed of exhaustion because you've been giving more than you have to give. Maybe it's a weed of anger because someone crossed a boundary of yours. Maybe it's a weed of anxiety or stress because something genuinely feels uncertain or unsafe in your life. Maybe it's a weed of loneliness because you're missing connection or feeling misunderstood. Maybe it's a weed of sadness because you've experienced a loss. Maybe it's a weed of frustration because something matters deeply to you and you can't seem to achieve it right now. Maybe this weed of experience is partly the result of patterns inside of you. Sometimes weeds are inside of us, sometimes they're outside of us. Sometimes it's both. This is where mindfulness can help. Mindfulness gives us just enough space to observe and experience before judging it. Instead of looking at the weed and saying, I shouldn't feel this, you can say, this is what I'm experiencing right now, and that's okay. Instead of thinking something is wrong with me, we can ask, what's happening here right now that led to this experience? Now take a slow breath and notice what happens when you approach your experience with curiosity instead of with judgment. You don't have to like the weed. You don't have to keep the weed. You don't have to pluck the weed. And this is the important part. Seeing a symptom as information doesn't mean you have to accept everything exactly the way it is. Sometimes the information tells you that something needs to change. The weed is there for a reason. Maybe you need to establish a boundary. Maybe you need to leave an unhealthy situation. Maybe you need some more time for self-care. Maybe you need to learn how to ask for help. Or maybe it's just an action or a behavior that you've been engaging in that you need to change, or a relationship you need to repair. Or maybe the only thing that needs to change is the way you've been judging yourself. Have you been planting weeds in your own garden of the mind? The purpose of any mindful meditation isn't to make you passive. It isn't to let the weeds grow wild in your mind. It's to help you see clearly enough to respond wisely. So take another slow breath and imagine returning again to that garden. Look again at the weed. Remember, you don't have to pull it. You don't have to protect it either. You don't have to judge it. Just observe it and describe it to yourself. Now ask, what conditions allowed this weed to grow? What is it responding to? What is it telling me about myself and my journey? Finally, ask yourself, what does this garden need right now? You don't have to come up with an answer immediately. You could just let it grow for a while. Mindfulness doesn't require immediate answers. Sometimes awareness comes before understanding. Sometimes understanding comes before action. Now take another slow breath. And as you breathe in, notice that you're still here. As you breathe out, allow yourself to be exactly where you are. A forest contains flowers and thorns, growth and decay, sunlight and shadow. Everything in the ecosystem has a purpose. What we call a weed in one context might be useful in another context. When we learn to recognize this, we will come to know that maybe there's no such thing as a weed after all, that all plants in the garden have their purpose. The goal in noticing weeds this way is to help us become more aware of ourselves, our relationships, and the world we're growing in, so that we can respond more skillfully. Take one final breath. Ask yourself, what is this weed telling me about the garden of my mind? Now, when you're fully ready, gently open your eyes and bring your attention back to your surroundings. And remember, you don't always have to eliminate the problem to learn from it. Sometimes you just have to listen to what the weed is trying to tell you.
Hi, this is Dr. Charlton Hall. I'm the Executive Director of the Mindful Ecotherapy Center. If you're enjoying our videos, please don't forget to subscribe and tap the notification bell to be informed when new videos are released. You can also learn more about the work of the Mindful Ecotherapy Center by visiting our website at mindfulecotherapy.org.